Good morning, everyone. My name is Taryn, and thank you so much for stopping by my channel, Nicole Flower House. This channel is all about my cut flower garden. It's a raised bed, no dig style, and I'm located in zone 7B. Like many other gardeners, I'm starting to get the itch to start some seeds. Now, it's really early to start seeds, it's mid-January, but there's a few things that I can do. I'm going to sow some perennials like echinacea and foxglove because those are typically very slow growing. From experience, any kind of perennial seed that I've grown has just taken forever, so there's no harm in starting those now. I'm also going to start some flowers that are tolerant to frost, so things like carnations or dianthus, and also snapdragons. I have some Dara going in as well, and also a few varieties of calendula. As you can see, I have all of my seeds organized in cardboard photo boxes. I have them alphabetized, and in a second box I have all of my vegetable seeds. And funny enough, my vegetable seed box is bigger than my flower seed box, and I think I'm going to take the time to switch those because there's extra room in the vegetable box and my flower box is just overflowing with seeds. The reason I like the photo box better than, say, those plastic totes with the individual cases for photos is that I can access all of my seeds a lot faster. I can flip through them really quickly and see what varieties I have. And I tried that method before, the one with the plastic cases, and I just couldn't find categories or a way to organize it that really fit the containers. So that's why I switched my seeds to these cardboard photo boxes and kind of like a filing system. Now today I'm working on pruning my David Austin roses. I have 4 of them. And I'm getting ready because I have 8 more coming in the mail. I'm so excited for those to arrive. But here we go, and this is not a tutorial on how to prune roses. This is just simply what I choose to do with mine, and I just wanted to show it to you. Of course, I'm wearing gloves that will protect me from thorns, and I follow just a few simple rules when pruning my roses. First, I try to make sure none of the branches are touching each other. And you can see here that these 2 branches are rubbing against each other and crossing over. So one of those needs to go. You know, it's just kind of more of an art. You can decide what you want the structure of your rose to look like and then make your decision on which branches you want to remove or leave in. I personally like to prune my roses to an open center. I like them to be nice and airy in the middle and kind of open up almost like a tulip or a vase shape. So if I have branches going through the middle of the plant or crossing over each other, I take those out. Another thing I do is I try to prune right above an open facing bud or leaf node. So you want to think of it in a way is if wherever that leaf node is, whichever direction it's pointing, that's where the new growth will come from and that's the direction it will go in. So since I like the middle of my rose to be nice and open, I prune above outward facing buds so that new growth points outward and goes out instead of into the middle. Now here is rose number 2. This is one of my new roses from last season. It was called Strawberry Hill, and you can see this one did a lot better than that first one. The first one is one that I had dug up from my previous home and moved it here, so it might have been in a little transplant shock. But this one I got in the mail in the fall, well no, in the spring of 2020, when it was dormant and planted it, and it's never been moved. So its growth was much more vigorous. It took me a little bit longer to figure out what I wanted to do with this one, and that's okay. You can start with the low-hanging fruit and just kind of clean it up first, and as you keep going, it'll be more obvious to you which branches you want to cut out. And also, this is a learning process. Every year, you'll get the chance to prune your roses again and make adjustments and changes if you want to, and that's a good thing. Gardening's about learning and having fun and just doing what you like, and you can adapt the so-called rules of pruning things into a way that fits your own style. Now this rose is looking nice and all cleaned up. I still have 2 more roses to prune, but before I do that, I wanted to head over to the eucalyptus since it shares a bed with this area. And like I've said in previous videos, eucalyptus is a tree. That being said, many flower growers grow eucalyptus as an annual and start new seeds every year. These eucalyptus I did grow from seed, but they grew very slowly and didn't really come into a decent volume until the fall. So I'm going to try to overwinter these, and it looks like they're doing really well. They're nice and green. There's some disease on the leaves. We've been getting a ton of rain, but overall I'm happy with the way these look. Now, since they're trees and they're large plants, I'm going to take this opportunity to harvest some of this eucalyptus and do what is called coppicing, which is cutting a tree off down at the base. And then you'll get new growth, smaller stems, but more of them coming from the base where you cut the tree off. Now, I've never done this before. This is obviously a big experiment on the eucalyptus here. We'll see if I get branching. I've tried to cut these at several different places, some closer to the ground, some above, a branching point in the structure. So I'll just have to see in the spring if I get any new growth off of those or not. And if I don't, I won't thin them as hard next year. You can see I've cut this one, and the next one I cut a lot closer to the ground. So I'll just see how these do. and adjust from there. I'm trying to decide if I want to start some more seeds of these this year, in case I want to increase my stock or something happens to these throughout the spring or the summer, but you know, we'll see. When I was in there cleaning those up, I also found quite a few weeds I unearthed, so I decided to take the opportunity and work on pulling those out. And behind all those weeds, you'll notice there are some sweet peas planted at the bottom of that trellis. So those I planted in the fall. They haven't been doing much, but hopefully I'll get an early start on those sweet peas in the spring. And I'm also germinating some sweet peas right now. I forgot to mention that in the beginning of the video, but I did plant sweet peas in that seed tray. Now this is my third rose that needs pruned. It is, I believe, the Charles Darwin variety. It's a David Austin rose as well. And this is another one that I transplanted from my old home when we moved here. So it is quite small compared to the other two new ones. And I don't know if you remember, but over the summer, this rose got severely diseased. It completely defoliated, and I pruned this back almost all the way to the ground. And then I called it my comeback rose because it completely came back and flourished later in the summer. So I'm hoping that after this winter's rest and this pruning that I'm doing right now, this rose will bounce back and just be beautiful again this summer. And here is the fourth and final rose that I have to prune today. The variety is Desdemona. It's one of my new ones that I just planted last fall. And I'm going to be following the same principles of making sure the center is nice and open. I'm taking some of the new growth back by about a third, and that no branches are crossing each other or rubbing against each other. I'm also making sure there's no foliage touching the ground, and having a nice open center allows more airflow and less disease to occur on the roses, like black spot or fungal infections. I do have a lot of trouble with that, but I just tend to prune my roses back when I get leaf spot instead of using chemicals. Now here are some buds on this rose. I'm not really sure if they're viable. I was really tempted to leave those on there just to see what would happen, but I don't think that's in the best interest in the health of the plant. Our zone is a little bit interesting in that my roses never really go completely dormant. So when I'm cutting on them and pruning them, I'm always a little nervous that I'm doing too much because there's still green leaves and foliage and there's still red new growth on them. But now is the time to prune them, so I went ahead and took those off. Now I don't talk much about the food that I grow in the garden, but I do grow food in this garden, kind of in a potager style, all mixed together with the flowers. These are just some greens and carrots that I have planted. Here are some calendula. I planted these in the fall. They didn't bloom, and you can see there's quite a bit of cold damage on them with the yellowing leaves and the brown spots. I could put some frost cloth over these, but I never got around to it, so they're just kind of trying to survive. But I do have some buds in the middle of this one, so I'm interested to see if I'll get blooms. Now they're so far down in the middle of that, there's no stem on the plant, so it wouldn't be good for a cut arrangement, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm really excited to take you over here. I don't know if you remember, but I had a small willow patch that I just planted in the spring of 2020. And now it's finally time to take my first harvest of these willow branches. And I am actually very surprised at how many branches I actually got. I just thought that, oh, this patch is so small and I'm not going to be able to do much with this for many years, and it's just going to be this long drawn out process. But by the time I got finished harvesting all of these willow branches, I definitely have enough for at least one, if not maybe 2 or 3 projects, small projects, to use these for. So I'm super excited. I'm definitely going to be trying to make something. What do you guys think I should make? I'm pretty sure it's going to be a wreath, but we'll find out. And here it is, my final harvest of my first willow branches. Super excited about this. This eucalyptus would look so pretty mixed in here, have a nice willow and eucalyptus wreath. And of course, I'll be trying to do this in a way in which I just weave everything together, and I don't want to use floral tape or floral wire on this project. Here is my mulch pile. I just got 20 yards of mulch delivered. Now this is a lot of mulch, but I have a lot of uses for it. And even if I don't use it all in the first go around, if it sits and ages over the spring and summer until I need it again, that's perfectly fine. It can compost down. As you can see, there are some large pieces of wood and sticks in here. That's because I opted to get basic mulch. And poking behind the giant mulch pile right back there is my baby little soil pile, so I still have some of that left. But anyways, back to my basic mulch. I opted for the basic mulch this time instead of the soil conditioner, which is what I used before earlier in the season, because it was about half as much cost. Now you get what you pay for, so it's not as fine of a product. The pieces are bigger, but it'll be perfectly fine to use on my garden beds. Now I've got some of these beds mulched, but I do need to add mulch to the rest of them, including this veggie bed in the calendula and these beds over here. This one has asparagus in it, and so that one needs mulch. And then all 6 of the dahlia beds will get mulch as well. And then also that brand new perennial garden that I'm starting along the neighbor's fence in the back there will also get a lot of mulch added to it. Now scooping up 20 yards of mulch and carrying it all around the garden can seem like a lot of work. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. Like, you can just smell the mulch. It just feels like spring, even though we're in the middle of January, and it just makes me really happy to be working with the mulch. You can just tell how much soil life and soil biology it has. It has retained a lot of moisture. It has a really nice color. And it's really just going to add so much beneficial microbes and life to the garden. Keeping the soil covered is a really important concept in no-dig gardening. It's just something that keeps your soil from drying out and keeps all the life that lives in the soil alive and thriving and happy. And also a big shout out to my husband Kelly, who is filming me right now with all of these mulch shots. He puts a smile on my face too and keeps me company while I'm out here working in the garden. Now, several of you on the last video left me comments about what I could plant in here while my Siberian elms are still growing and establishing. We had votes for cosmos, sunflowers, and nasturtiums, I believe, and all of those sound like amazing ideas. I might just have to try all of them. But I have a really hard time with sunflowers because I have a ton of deer pressure. Someday I'd like to get a fencing solution. I've seen research done with angled fences and also double fences. So that's something maybe way out in the future I would look into to try to help keep deer out of the yard. Scully also does a good job, but since she's an inside puppy, she only gets the deer out of the yard during dusk and dawn, and they do come in overnight and eat my sunflowers and pumpkins and things like that. So here she is guarding this perennial bed for me already. Well, that is all for today's cut flower garden tour and update. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. And the best way that you can support me and my channel and help me grow is to subscribe and share it with your flower loving friends. I'll see you next week. Bye.